in a world where Red Dead Redemption 2 makes a killing in its first 3 days, and Fallout 76 may be a huge disappointment. This is Sick and Wired.
Hey guys, welcome to Sick and Wired, the exclusive podcast of Sick Critic, where we highlight trending topics in the game industry. I'm one of your hosts, Devin Pratt, and today I'm joined by David Fraley, our lovely public relations manager.
Hello!
Peter Finaldi, staff writer and columnist for the site.
Hey.
And Brandon Perro, our audio editing expert and also columnist.
It's a me.
We got a lot of stuff to go over today. A few highlights. We're going to be the Fallout 76 PC beta issues, as well as Sony they're predicting 2018 profits by 30%. Red Dead Redemption 2 making $725 million in the first 3 days of launch, and some bugs also highlighting Red Dead Redemption. Our main topic is going to be Red Dead Redemption 2 this week, so we got a lot of stuff to cover here. But as always, what we like to start with is what you guys have been playing. So, David, we'll start with you. What have you been up to?
Not a damn thing. I haven't played a game in probably a week. No, I've actually been putting a little bit of time into Red Dead. Not nearly as much as I would like to. I've just been kind of busy. But I've been playing a little bit more of, the Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Playing a little bit more Rocket League, which doesn't really surprise anybody here. Yeah, that's been about it. And a bunch of D&D. Yes.
D&D, more D&D.
So much D&D I can't even begin to fathom. It's just so much.
It's heavenly. Anyway.
Well, if you haven't been playing that much, someone chime in here. Peter, what have you been up to?
I've been playing, I just beat Danganronpa 1 Trigger Happy Havoc. It's a very weird game. And if you like visual novel Japanese style games, I would recommend that. I just started the second one. I have the little collection. And that's off to an even weirder start. So, again, if you're in the mood for that kind of stuff, definitely try that out. I recommend it. And I'm also playing the Tetris Effect demo, which is a really trippy Tetris game, on the PS4, which is also really fun to play.
I love Tetris. I honestly haven't played since the version on my phone. I'm pretty good at it, but you know how that goes.
Well, at least you're modest about it.
Well, what have you been up to? What have you been up to, Brandon?
Couple things. First of all, Red Dead Redemption 2. Although that's something that when you're going to play Red Dead Redemption 2, you really got to sit down for a couple hours and get yourself into it. And I just haven't had that luxury this week. But something that I was able to hop into for a while was the Fallout 76 beta, which took place, and we'll talk about what happened on October 30th, this past Tuesday. But Thursday, I definitely got into it, and frankly, I'm a little unimpressed, just because it went for a more MMO style than I was expecting. It felt a little too close to Elder Scrolls Online, which we kind of touched on last week, and how and the downfalls of that, and what Fallout 76 kind of needed to be. But I think the big thing for me is that I hate it when companies try to make an MMO style game, and they make it so single player that it doesn't even matter if it's MMO anymore. And so I feel like I'm playing an online game, but for no other reason than to increase the possibility of a crash, like a server crash or various online related bugs and stuff like that, when in actuality it could just be a single player game like any other Fallout game that we've seen. But anyway, and then Red Dead Redemption 2, obviously we're going to be covering a lot already today, so
yeah, and we'll touch more base on the Fallout 76 issues as well. But I mean, basically what I've been up to is mostly Red Dead Redemption 2. Been a little bit back on my Fortnite grind. I know you guys are gonna hate me for saying that. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I have fun with it. Have you guys played the? Well, I don't know if you guys are big Fortnite players at all, but have you guys played the update with like the Halloween event? Man, like.
I stopped playing a while.
Yeah, it
ago.
gets. I don't know. You run around and those like zombie things just. I don't know. It takes the wind out of your sails. I played like probably 7 solo matches the past couple of days, and I've been in the final 2. And I can just not close out because I have these stupid things chasing me around, and I'm too focused on trying to get them off my back and not focusing on the guy that's building a pyramid above me. But I don't know. Other than that, a little bit of Red Dead Redemption 2. I know we're going to highlight a lot of that, so I'm not going to dive into much of that. But other than that, as far as news, I know one of the big things, and I know that Brandon kind of highlighted on this earlier, is the Fallout 76 PC beta issues that have been going around. And I know there's a few big ones. I know the frame rate issue was a major issue that a lot of people were highlighting. And I think that had to do with how the gameplay is, the movement is tied to the frame rate, so people could, look at the ground and move faster than they were looking up while they were walking, which in a single-player game that Bethesda's used to making, this isn't really an issue, but to an online multiplayer game, this is a serious problem. If you can look down at the ground and outrun your opponents, that's no bueno. Have you guys? I know Brandon, you played a bit of this. Did you experience any of that?
I did not. The big beta problems that I've been that I experienced though on Tuesday though was I pre-ordered it on PC, and so the big thing was on PC there was an issue where if you preloaded the game, then the game deleted itself when it was time for the beta, and you had to preload it again. And then there are some people who, after they preloaded it the second time, it happened again. And they had to keep loading it and loading it and loading it. And it took like a couple hours, I want to say, for Bethesda on their Twitter to finally come out and say, okay, we fixed it. They were kind of keeping updates, but there was only like a couple updates because it took them so long to figure out the issue. But long story short, I didn't get to play on Tuesday because everybody at the same time was trying to re-download the game, and so you were only able to download it so quickly, and so I was getting it'll be done in 10 hours or 12 hours, and so I had to actually leave it running overnight to get it downloaded.
Weren't they also having issues with like even after the beta was over, people were still able to download the beta, and that's like something else like they didn't want it to happen, so they were like, oh, we're trying to like turn that capability off or something.
I did not hear about that.
I thought I read something on Twitter that's what was going on. I could be wrong.
Maybe was that in relation to the early Xbox one, possibly?
Might be. I don't know entirely. Like I said, I've only kind of everything that I've heard of has been from Twitter. So,
and a lot of the problems aren't just with the bugs, but one of the bigger issues is that the graphics seem rather flushed out at times. Like even watching gameplay from Digital Foundry, it seems very mobile like the textures pop in very late, and how there's very low frame rate at random spots. It just seems like the game just needs a little more time in the oven, which is weird since the game's like 2 weeks away.
Yeah, and like I don't know, bugs. We all know that bugs to Bethesda go hand in hand. I mean, I have yet to play any Elder Scrolls game or Fallout game that did not have some bugs in it at launch. Like they're known for putting out games and then working on hot fixes directly after launch. But usually the games are so good that no one really cares at the time, and it's almost like a hallmark moniker for the games because there's several things within like bug wise in those games that I actually have a good time laughing at. But like I said, those are single player experiences, and when you have a competitive multiplayer game, this is not a good thing. So I don't know. Me personally, I don't think this is going to be a big success for Bethesda. Everything I've seen in it, I'm honestly just not that interested in it. I've never been a huge.
Yeah, same.
I am a Fallout fan, but like having a multiplayer aspect to that has never been a big thing for me. And I always wanted like a online Elder Scrolls, and then after playing Elder Scrolls Online, it just I realized that I enjoy those games single player more than I do multiplayer. So I don't know if this is going to affect their sales, but from the sounds of it, they need to get some stuff together before launch.
Based on what I've played of the beta, and I know there are the companies are going to come out. They're going to say, "Oh, this is a beta. This is an early version kind of thing. This is not supposed to be 100% representative of the final product." But for all intents and purposes, this is going to be what's released minus a few bugs. And obviously some better servers to go along with that. That's why they call it a stress test beta. But from what I've seen so far, I feel like they missed the mark. It feels like they really tried to bring it up and talk about it and make it into something that it isn't. And in reality, what it is it's kind of Elder Scrolls Online for Fallout.
That's kind of what I was thinking too, and I still have the same concerns, because I know we talked about this last week, I still have the concerns that I just don't think that there's going to be enough for you to do. I just feel like it's going to be, like, they're going to have lore that you can follow up on, but I don't think that it's going to be enough to keep people coming back for even 2, 3, 4 months down the line. It's going to be something that you're going to hop in, play for a little bit, be like, yeah, okay, I can appreciate what they're trying to do here, and then you're going to hop off after like a week or two. Like, I don't know.
And another common criticism is that, like, there's very few human NPCs, in the sense, like, you just have to wander around, maybe collect some, like, audio tapes or something like that, but the Bethesda games have always been known for not just their bugs, but their deep lore, and when a game like that is very absent of it, and even Elder Scrolls Online has a lot of lore, but when Fallout 76 seems devoid of that, it seems rather
well, I think the main problem is from what I've seen, I'm the type of gamer where because I'm so invested in my single player experiences, I usually like to leave no stone unturned. So I try to look at pretty much as I possibly can. So I go through and I read a lot of the like papers and books and stuff like that Bethesda loves to put in their games that contain extra lore in it. But the problem is that in Fallout 76, because there really is very little in the way of like you said, the NPCs, the human NPCs, it's just it's no longer extra lore. Like, it's like that is the lore. The lore is a combination, or not even a combination. The lore is basically the same way that BioShock gave its lore. You ran around, you found the tapes and everything, but at the center of the game was its gameplay. However, the gameplay itself isn't the gameplay. It doesn't hold up to I'm trying to. It doesn't satisfy the expectations of a Bethesda game, because Bethesda is so well known for its lore, and the papers and stuff that lie around it. They just don't get the job done.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, like a big part of this too. A lot of people are saying that this is almost like their version of a cash grab for microtransactions, which like you said, I didn't get much time to experience the beta as much as I'd like to. So I that's something that we'll see more once launch comes around. But for a game that, like you said, that is so enveloped in the lore, and it being a key part of it, I just don't see how this is like you said. I'm one of those people who like to do, like, look at every single. If I find a book that's in a bookshelf on Elder Scrolls, like I'm gonna read all of that because it usually hints at something that was in a previous game to a character or something like that. And even Elder Scrolls Online is littered with that everywhere. And this being that, not the case with this one. I can see why people are having issues with it. But I mean, I guess it's one of those things that we'll just have to see when it comes out, and hopefully it doesn't damage Bethesda too much, because I do love all the work they do, but I'm seeing some serious issues.
Are they, real quick, are they doing an open beta?
I think it's closed.
The beta is for anyone who pre-ordered the game. I don't know if you can still, if you were to pre-order now, I don't know if you would gain access to the beta. I think you would, but as long as you pre-ordered it, you get access.
See, and I think that's something that's going to hurt them too, is the fact that they just are not opening it up to the public. Like, I understand having like a closed beta, in the beginning for the people that did pre-order, but with something like this, you're going to want to test your servers to see if you're going to be able to handle a lot of, people jumping in and wanting to play this. You're also going to want to offer it to everybody. You're not going to just be like, oh yeah, well, the people that, decided to pre-order the game, here you go, you can try it out. But for the people that don't know what they're getting into, don't know anything about this game or anything like that, you're just going to have to trust us. And it's like, I love Bethesda. I love most of their games, but since this is something kind of new that they're jumping into, like, they're not totally unfamiliar with multiplayer games, like they have ESO, but this is still kind of a new territory that they're jumping into, and I just feel like you should open it up to the public even for like a weekend and just let everybody get a taste of it.
Yeah, and we're talking about like millions of people that are going to buy this game, and when we're going to get like a SimCity like situation, like in 2013, that SimCity game that kept on like crashing.
I bought that the day it came out, and I don't think I've ever been more angry at myself for purchasing a game in my life.
I should mention that I sat down on Thursday and I said, all right, I'm excited. It's time to finally get into this game that I've been really excited for, and I got into it, played for a few hours and everything, and then my play session ended on a server crash.
Wow.
That's how my play session ended.
See, I would have been pissed if that would have happened.
One of the things I really hope doesn't happen is they end up being like, the story and the lore is what you make it. You make your own story. Pull like a whole Sea of Thieves ordeal here, and then we know how that went.
Don't worry, they'll add the story like a few months later. That's how most game developers do.
Yeah. I know our game sucks, but here's some story now, guys. Come back. Destiny.
No Man's Sky.
I think the one thing that could potentially save them, and I think this area can really reclaim this game, is there is a spot on your. Forgive me for being a little ignorant. I've never been. Like, Fallout isn't my huge game series or anything, but I want to call it the Pip-Boy. Is that correct? Okay. So on the Pip-Boy, there is a section in there. I explored it a little bit, and there's a section for events. And so I'm hoping and praying that when the game fully releases, they'll continue with events. And I think that could really keep it afloat. That can keep people coming back.
Well, yeah, I mean,
if they do it often enough.
It's the same thing with like Destiny.
There'll be world events. Yeah, like there's a difference between like a holiday event, say like something revolving around like Halloween, and then something like a just a world event.
I mean, we'll see. Like I said, I don't know. It may end up just being something that I pick up when it goes on sale, because I'm skeptical. Like I have some reserved skepticism for this game. I wasn't all that big of a fan of ESO. And I love Elder Scrolls, but I don't know. I had some issues with it. And I love the Fallout games. Like I played the hell out of Fallout 3, but it's something like this, I'm just skeptical on, especially if you're not going to give me the time of day to play it for free, even for like a weekend, just to test it out. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with that being said, I think we covered a lot of that. Let's move on to our next news topic here. Sony raising the predicted 2018 profit by 30%. That includes things like PS4 sales figures, stuff like that. What do you guys take on that? Still, obviously PlayStation's been killing the game here recently, especially compared to like Microsoft. So what do you guys expect from Sony moving forward?
I expect them to take these profits, and I want to see Spider-Man 2.
We're definitely going to see that. It sold like bananas really well for them. But I think like since the momentum is still really strong for a console that's like 5 years old, that's still a really good sign for any company. Like when you see Nintendo saying like, "Oh, we're going to keep the 3DS alive for like another year." I'm like, when your product is still making money and it just won't die, it's a pretty good sign. And so, like, the PS4 can easily make over 100 million units.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, it's going to be, like, in the upper echelon of, like, best-selling consoles. And that's going to be, like...
What are they at right now? Like 84 million units sold?
Yeah, I think it's 86 or something like that.
So about almost a third of the U.S. population.
Yeah.
Good
They'll
Lord.
make it like the third PlayStation console that sold over 100 million copies. It's like kind of nuts.
I guess the only downside to this is as long as the PS4 keeps selling like this, you're going to be waiting for the PS5 a whole lot longer. As long as it's still viable and kids are picking up a PlayStation, then there's no need for them to rush out a new system. So that's definitely going to delay that a little bit.
Yeah, especially with all the games coming out. There's like 5 games.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. I think a longer console lifespan is a good thing for the industry in general, because I don't like it when companies I don't like to see companies in the industry jumping the gun on something. Usually, whenever you release a new system, your system's got to be backed up by games that simply you cannot get the same experience on the previous system. Otherwise, people would just get the previous system.
Yeah.
And so while you still have your like core people who are like, oh yeah, I gotta have the latest console, especially PlayStation, love PlayStation, gonna get the latest one. Besides those people, those aren't the people that are going to really that they're not going to be the people that really make the money for you. Okay, it's going to be it's going to be by making it so that making it as close to possible for someone to say, I can't afford not to buy that because of all of the great games that are coming out that I can't get over here.
Yeah.
So it's got to distinguish itself in that sense. And I think the longer the PS5 takes, the more time is being put towards those games that are going to be on the PlayStation 5 that you're not going to get the same experience on PlayStation 4. And I think one of those games very well could be The Last of Us Part 2. I think that's probably a game that I could see releasing alongside the PlayStation 5 in 2020 or 2021.
And Death Stranding, if it ever comes out.
Yeah, if it ever does.
Death Stranding, I'm expecting for PlayStation 7. I really have my hopes up for that. Could get delayed, we'll see.
That's still coming up for the PS3.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, it's a good sign for Sony. Anytime you can project a 30%, increase 30% of predicted profit for the year, the shareholders love that. So I'm sure this will give them a lot of momentum moving into 2019. And I think it's key for companies to stay on the bleeding edge so they can push the boundaries of what we expect. And, as long as things are selling well, that they're going to keep doing that. But they're not the only ones that's been doing too well here recently. How about Red Dead Redemption 2 making $725 million in the first 3 days of release? That's pretty astounding.
That is an insane amount of sales for 3 days. Those are sales that if a game were to make that much money in the span of 4 years, they would be pretty satisfied, I think. I mean, it's unprecedented.
Let me put it to you this way, okay? So my dad deals with like the stock market and everything. He came to me and said, "Hey, did you hear the Red Dead Redemption 2 from Rockstar?" And I was like, "Wait, hold on, just a hot minute. Let me mark this in my calendar that you're actually bringing to me a gaming topic, because you never talk about video games." And then like
It's like my dad with Cuphead. Like, my dad just, like, loves that game.
yeah, and it was like, and then I go to work and we were talking about, and then like my boss, who could care less about video games, comes out and goes, "Yeah, did you know they sold 725 million?" I'm like, "Where did you get this from? Like, who are you people? What has happened to my way of life? Like, I don't understand it." It's just absolutely nuts that Rockstar, and the funny thing is too, is you have to sit back and think about the fact. So GTA is a really popular game. Red Dead Redemption is a really popular game. And then you look at all these other popular games, like Uncharted, like Crash Bandicoot, Halo. You can literally take all of theirs and put it together, and it probably wouldn't even come close to what Red Dead just made. Like, think about that.
It's pretty insane. Just to give some clarification, if you will, on that for anybody listening, that comes out to about 12.1 million copies sold,
And it's
in 3 days. 12.1 million.
And what's insane is GTA 5 did 50 million in a span of a few years. So we no doubt, as long as they can, which we're going to dive into a lot of this here in a minute, but as long as they can find a formula to keep the longevity of the game as far as multiplayer is concerned, you're definitely going to have a game with at least a 5-year lifespan here. That's going to probably overshadow the likes of Grand Theft Auto. It's insane. I can't, in 3 days, and I haven't even purchased the game yet. I've been playing on my friends. So I mean, I will be buying it. It's just like, good, wow.
So sometime in the next couple weeks, they're gonna have $725 million and $60.
Yes.
Or they're probably well over $1 billion right now.
I'll put that in the little calculation.
But with that being said, we might as well move into our main topic here, which is obviously going to be Red Dead Redemption 2. Coming out to some critical acclaim. I know a lot of outlets have put a 10 out of 10 on this. Our review is still being written. I think we're going to wait for the multiplayer aspect of the game to come out before we give our final consensus on it. But those who have played it so far, you guys, what are you thinking?
To start things off, I mean, I'm going to have a different opinion from a lot of other people, and so bear with me on this. For me, it starts off really slow. I haven't put that much time into it. I do plan on putting more time into it, but this is like my first Rockstar game that I've actually like sat back and played. Like, I did not play Grand Theft Auto until like way later, and then I just did a couple things in the start and then just ran around punching old ladies in the face. Like, I don't know why. I was like, I'm just gonna go off and do just random stuff. The last game of theirs that I actually sunk like a ton of time into was Midnight Club 2, and I love that game. So for me, it just seems like it starts off slower than I would have preferred. It seems like you're doing just like a lot of just kind of little quests here and there, nothing that really has any quote-unquote meaning to it, for lack of a better term. I'm waiting for it to kind of, like, for something major to happen and to really open up the story.
Well, I think... I mean, you can go ahead, Brendan, if you want to touch on this.
So I think to kind of add on to your whole idea of it starting slow, I would say that it does start slow. However, if I could throw out some speculation, I believe that this may have been intentional to try and get as many people to play the game as possible, because Red Dead Redemption 2 is someone who hasn't played the first Red Dead Redemption is not going to be able to come into Red Dead Redemption 2 and immediately know everything that's going on. And even for people who have played the original one, they haven't. They have new mechanics and new gameplay, for that matter, within the game. And so I feel like the game is kind of holding my hand so far. I'm also not super far into it, but I feel like it's kind of holding my hand, but I'm ready at any point for it to let me loose and just kind of run rampant, because that is kind of what Rockstar games tend to do, is they just like to they like to let you run crazy after you've had enough experience with the mechanics and with the game. I think it's already the highest rated game on Metacritic, with a 98 on its Xbox review and a 97 on PlayStation. And
That's
it's
like Nintendo numbers right
yeah,
there.
and it's really, really easy to see why. It took everything that was really great about the first game, and it kept all of those pretty much. And then it improved some of the things. Like, I definitely thought the combat in the first game could have been better and more consistent in a lot of places, and now it is in Red Dead Redemption 2. It, of course, got a graphical upgrade. I thought that there were certain mechanics with riding your horse that could have been improved upon, and they have been. And so they just they made Red Dead Redemption 2 what they gave Red Dead Redemption 2 everything that Red Dead Redemption needed to be a perfect game for the most part.
Yeah. Well, see, in regards to it being slow, it is slow, and I want to say it's purposefully slow. So, I mean, a major aspect. I mean, if you're used to, those people who like Grand Theft Auto, it's one of those games where you jump in and it's just like nonstop action from the get-go. And this game it never has been like that. Even the first Red Dead Redemption was a slow game. But this is by far one of the most impressive graphically games I've ever seen in my entire life. I think it's one of the most beautiful games. And I think its intent is for it to be slow. And a major thing that I know some people complain about is the amount of travel that you do within the game. And there's a ton of traveling. You are literally going to travel from each location. There is no fast traveling. And without throwing too many spoilers in, but the game wants you to experience everything that it has to offer through that lens to see exactly what they've built and the world that they've built. And they want you to purposely have to travel to these locations and maybe stumble upon something. It could be a side quest, or it could be just some random guy sitting there that might. And one instance I ran across was like, you run into people who will just tell you these crazy stories, and it's got a real cool development to it, to where there's a lot to offer that's not just the main quest. It's not a game that you're supposed to be able to run, straight to the end of the game and plow through the main story. They want you to take your time with it and see everything. So I mean, yeah, it is slow, extremely slow, and I don't think not everybody's going to love this game because of that, and it's going to be a different experience. But I guess my suggestion would be to open yourself up to something a little different as far as what you're expected to, and what a lot of newer gamers are used to are these fast action, high-paced video games, whereas
like the Assassin's Creed kind of games.
Exactly.
That, Ubisoft has always been like, here's a bunch of things to do, go do them right now. But Rockstar just wants you to sink in with that world. But you were saying?
No, I was gonna say, I'm trying to kind of remind myself of when I was playing The Witcher 3, because The Witcher 3 was this giant, huge world that you could spend. I mean, I think I spent over 200 hours playing it, and I didn't really do any of the side quests, which I know, shame on me, because it's my favorite RPG of all time. But at the same time, it's that game started off really slow. There was a part where it did open up and the story kind of clicked, and I was like, oh my god, like I can't put this game down now. But it was like I had to play and do a couple, little quests here and there that led me from this town to this town and kind of took me all over the place before it really kind of got good. So I'm trying to kind of keep reminding myself that, like, hey, this game will get good. You just have to give it a little bit of time. Gotta, like, let the plot kind of build up and, and really open up for you. And right now it's just, it hasn't done that yet. So I'm just kind of trying to tough it out as best I can.
Well, even though it is starting slow, I will say that my biggest beef, there were a lot of things there were a lot of small issues I had with the original one, but my biggest issue was that I felt like my missions were pointless. There were so many missions where I would go through this whole thing. Maybe I'd fail the mission and have to retry a couple times because I suck at video games so badly. And then I would get through it finally, and then it would be like, all right, now tell me where Javier Escuela is for the 5th time. And they're like, oh, don't worry, just be patient. And I'm like, why did I have to do this mission? And I already feel like with this new one, that is out the door. Even though it started off slow, I feel like the missions I'm doing have a meaning and a purpose behind them, in my opinion. It just feels so much more fluid.
It's definitely a much more evolved Rockstar game, because they've been working on this game for like 8 years right now, and they've been like polishing it to a degree where it's like so impeccably detailed and so immersive that like you can't even compare it to their previous games, even Grand Theft Auto 5. So that's probably why a lot of people are giving it such high praise, because it's something they haven't really experienced before. Even with some games like The Witcher 3, like the world is basically a step up in open world design.
Speaking of the amount of time it took, so we talked a lot last week about, in fact, in the past couple weeks now, I think we've talked in the podcast a lot about Red Dead Redemption 2, how much time it took, the crunch that took like a year of its many year development process. For something that got so much press around how hard they had to work and how much crunch there was and things like that, and how much time they spent on it, I feel like there are a lot of bugs that even though there are relatively few bugs, there are too many that I feel like are pretty game breaking in some instances. Like the whole situation with there's a bug where you fail a mission in the story around chapter 2, towards the end of chapter 2, you fail a mission, and then all of a sudden 4 of the characters, pretty important characters too, like Abigail, Jack, and John Marston, they're all just deleted from the game practically. They're all gone until you reach sometime in chapter 4, which that's a pretty significant bug. And then Rockstar just kind of came out and said, like, oh, okay, well, the fix there is that if you die in the mission or you fail the mission for some reason, just restart the whole mission instead of restarting from the checkpoint. And it's like, that's a pretty crappy response to something that...
Is the mission very long?
I wouldn't be able to speak to that. I'm getting close to the end of chapter 2. But, either way, from experience playing the Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption, the missions generally, they take up a hefty amount of your time, especially in traveling in the Red Dead Redemption games.
Well, from my experience, the most painstaking amount of time that you're going to have to put into is actually traveling to the locations. The missions haven't exactly been as long as what I'm used to. I mean, but then again, I don't really take too much. I don't mind it being long, as long as I get the experience out of it. But, most of it's like getting to my destination and then going through the many aspects within the mission itself that involve traveling. But I have yet to experience that. You know, I have. I don't think that was an issue for me. I wasn't even aware of the bug. So I could see where that would be extremely annoying in some cases, especially if it's a mission that does take a long time. But from my own experience, there's not that many that's going to be like, oh my gosh, I have to go back and spend an hour doing what I was doing before. So I don't think it would be that big of an issue, but I could see where it could be very problematic for some people.
Here's my solution to that whole problem. Just don't die.
Just be a pro gamer.
Get good.
Get
Yeah,
good.
you know, that's,
exactly.
316 is good.
Maybe
All right,
easy for
listen,
you to
Devin,
say.
all right, did you really have to throw a Lawbreakers reference into this podcast too?
I'm gonna throw a Lawbreakers reference in any aspect of your life that I come into.
Dude, I mean, it's bad enough that the game no longer exists, and then you just have to keep tormenting me with it. It's just, you're killing me on the inside. But, no, not to, break away from Red Dead Redemption 2. Yeah, it's...
If anyone else would like to make any Lawbreakers comments, David's email is on the website. I'm sure he'd love to read all of them.
If you're from the Lawbreakers subreddit, I'm sure he would appreciate the death threats too.
I will exclusively and sincerely block all of you. But no, I don't know. It's when you have a big open world game like a game from CD Projekt Red or Rockstar or even Bethesda, it's very difficult to account for every single bug. No matter how game breaking or whatever it is, it is really, really hard to account for all of those. With that being said, yeah, I think they should definitely come out and say, hey, you know what, we're aware of this bug for right now as a quick fix until we can get a proper patch for that. Just start the mission all over. Don't do it from the checkpoint. We will be working on this immediately, as it seems a lot of people have been running across this bug. This will be our main concern until, further notice, and we'll let you guys know when we get it patched. With that being said, there's also a lot of absolutely hysterical bugs. Two of which that I've seen was, and the one that I saw just earlier today or yesterday or whatever, that had me literally in tears laughing, was you're riding your horse down a pathway and you see this old lady and she just kind of comes out of nowhere and she's like, hello, help me, somebody's dying, or something like that. And then out of nowhere, Bambi's father, this 8-point buck, just comes out of left field and just spears this poor chick and just literally mauls her to death in front of you. And you just see her do a James Bond, roll off to the side of the road and then just go limp. And then this buck just kind of looks left and right and then books it down the road. He just did a hit and run and didn't even care. One of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And then another one that's been circling the internet a lot lately is this. You're going down another road and it was a horse and buggy, and the horse gets I don't know if it gets caught in the road or it collapses, which brings the other horse kind of down with it, and the horse just spontaneously catches on fire.
Oh, what happens.
And well, and the one guy, he's literally what the heck am I watching right now? What just happened? And this horse literally is just cooking to death, and you hear it kind of, neighing and everything. And it's kind of frightening because I saw the whole video and you just see this horse's face just slowly get glowing embers and charring up. And it was, it's kind of a morbid sight, if I'm being honest. But it's just...
Let this be a lesson to everybody. Always put premium gas in your horse, because otherwise it's very susceptible to spontaneous combustion.
That 93 gas. Put that in your horse.
Don't buy Tesla horses.
Only premium oats.
I'm glad you said that. But it's just like, like with all games, like that's kind of the fun, at least for me it is seeing like these really weird, wonky bugs or just weird stuff that happens in the game. Like I saw some dude who like went to go pet his horse and it was like trying to like pet the back end of it and like accidentally hit the wrong button and just punched this horse in the ass, and this horse just goes and
it's like that
bucks
scene
him
from
like a
Blazing
bronco
Saddles.
and just sent him flying. And I've never laughed so hard in my entire life. Like stuff like that just gets me, and I'm just like, I love this game. Like I don't care how good the story is, this right here makes me want to buy this game.
And you even see that with like other games like Spider-Man. I'm still seeing like glitched out cutscenes where like they're all in T-pose and yet they're still talking. Like one in the scene in Spider-Man, and some spoilers here, but where Spider-Man meets Miles Morales and like when he goes and shoots off at the end of the scene, he's still in T-pose, so it sort of like jets off into like space. It looks like he's jetting off into space, and like it's just like games are so complicated now. Like it's impossible to like clean up everything in it. So
well, they've even it's like there's just there's only so much that your QA department can do. Like they're gonna be able to get a majority of the bugs, but when you're on a deadline, like okay, we need to release the game by this date, you're not gonna get every bug. And I'm sure in the weeks and the months and even the years going on, they're going to constantly be going through this game with a fine comb and be fixing the rest of the bugs so that there's fewer and fewer of this stuff happening. But this is kind of what makes these games great, is having these bugs, having these stories that you can record and post on social media or tell to your friends. Like my buddy, literally, he's been playing this more than me, and he posted a funny glitch. Well, I mean, it wasn't kind of funny, but it was just kind of like weird and I don't know what other word I can't even think right now. But it was like he was like walking through like a cave or something, and fell through the world at one point. Like literally, his guy was just tumbling in this white space, and then just out of nowhere, just arrived outside of the cave, and he goes, "Well, that's one heck of an exit." Like he was trying to get out of the cave, but like I'm guessing it's like a deep, cave to kind of go through, and all of a sudden he just pops outside, and he's like, all right, cool, that just saves me from 10 minutes of walking outside. It's just like little stuff like that I just think is kind of awesome. Like I don't know, that's just me.
I'll agree that's cool and all, but for me, it's just the one bug, the really big one, where the characters kind of delete themselves for the game for a period. I mean, that in a game that relies so heavily on its story, that's a pretty unfortunate bug to have, and that's not a fun one either. That's a frustrating one. That when it centers around the story, you don't want to be missing characters, especially when those characters could be holding missions and quests and stuff like that.
But that's something that they'll get worked out in time. Especially one like that. I bet they'll
I'm sure they
work
will.
on a pretty quick fix for that. Even though they're saying just for temporary fix, they're probably saying to go back to the last save point. But that's something that they'll address. It would be pretty foolish of them not to. But have you guys like taken the time to like experience any of like the side aspects of the game? Like they have a really cool like poker system and play like a card system, as well as like the legendary hunting you can do. As far as like there's a ton of different animals in the game. There's a lot of cool little things on the side that you can do that kind of like I feel like they took the attention to give you that overall experience, to give you that Western experience. Kind of like how like GTA has their stuff that they have in the game that's on the side. But it's really cool. It's like different. It's almost like a game within a game, which I've always loved how Rockstar finds cool ways to implement that, and really give you that feel And like I said, like if you haven't tried like the poker or the card system stuff, I would say like take the time to go check that out, and like kind of experience all the little things that they litter without like throughout the world. That'll kind of help you make all of like the entire overall theme of the game kind of connect together and finish out that experience for you. It really fleshes it out. It's something I think that everyone should give a shot. I wouldn't say just spend all your time, legendary hunting, but it's cool. There's nothing better than watching a grizzly tear you limb from limb. So.
Oh yeah, that is fun.
They got, again, it kind of goes back to the Witcher 3 and everything. It was like they have meta games within the game, so it's like there's even smaller stuff that you can do, and I like that aspect as well. Like it just makes the game seem more realistic. Like you can literally just go and do whatever. You can go, like there was one of the little things is that I went and paid. God, I think it was like a quarter or something because the game's currency is obviously set for like old fashioned times, and I went in and I started watching like a film that was just being played at, some place in the very first town that you come across. And I was like, all right, like, this is kind of cool. Like, I can just sit here and watch something real quick, and, watch something else that they have. Or like you said, Devin, like, go and play a game of poker or, or just do whatever. It's like, I like when they have stuff like that because it flushes the game out even more. But, yeah. Now, I got a quick question for you guys. So, I think one of the main reasons outside of it being a GTA game that really helped GTA 5 sell so well was the fact that they kind of released it towards the end of last gen's life cycle. Because it was on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but then they also ported it to current gen, Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So they were...
And PC.
And PC, yes. Thank you. So... they were kind of playing, to everybody's liking on that. Like, didn't matter if you moved to the next gen or if you couldn't afford that and you had to stick to the old gen, you were still able to get your hands on this console. If this game has the legs of a GTA 5, where it lasts 4, 5, maybe 6 years, we know within that period of time we're going to get the next generation of consoles. Do you think that this is going to be able to sell just as much as GTA 5 with...
It depends on the multiplayer, to be honest with you. The one thing that GTA gave it legs was the multiplayer aspect of it. And I know that's something that we're going to be getting, and it's probably going to be very good, but it just depends on how much people are willing to invest in it. So that's something to be seen. If it has a great multiplayer, I think yes. If not, then it may not have the legs that GTA has, and it could be more like a Witcher scenario. But Witcher sold very well, so I'm not sure.
Honestly, I think the determining factor is going to lie outside of Red Dead Redemption altogether. I think it's going to lie in that span of time. Are we going to get, like, towards the beginning of, or maybe a little bit after the new console generation has begun, are we going to see a new Grand Theft Auto game? Because I don't see, because when people get into the onlines on these games, they get really invested, especially with Rockstar. They have a great they have a great formula working for them on their online, but I don't see a lot of people pouring a crap ton of hours into the Red Dead Redemption 2 online and the GTA online. A personal standpoint, I see one of those being successful. So I think it depends a lot on when is the next GTA game, if there is one coming within that, like you said, 5-year span or whatever.
No, I kind of disagree with that sentiment, since, like, how come both can't do so well, since, like, Rockstar is basically, like, their own, like, brand right now. They're sort of, like, the biggest names in gaming. Like, we're, like, nearly 100 million people played their games. So, like, why would people just a completely different game than the Grand Theft Auto games because the next Grand Theft Auto came out? Like, I feel like that player pool will still be shared by both games, like, whenever the 6 Grand Theft Auto game releases.
But the thing is that with Rockstar being a brand like that, when you get a brand, it's they stick with what works, and what works is GTA 5's online. That has made them millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. So why would they stray away from that? Red Dead Redemption 2 online is going to be very reminiscent of that. And I think when we get Red Dead Redemption 2 online, I could see the numbers for GTA 5 dropping drastically. It's not going to go away, but I think it's definitely going to drop, just because if it's going to be as similar as I predict it's going to be, because it is Rockstar and they found a formula that works, if it's going to be so similar, I don't see a lot of as many people sticking to the GTA 5 when they could do a lot of the kind of the same formula, like I was saying with Red Dead Redemption 2. I think that's the key there.
I would disagree. I would disagree mainly for the fact that GTA 5 has a lot of things in it that Red Dead Redemption 2 online could never have. Like, they're never going to have like cool little races with like custom built tracks that you can fly with, or you're never going to be able to RPG somebody to the face. Like, there's little things like that only cater to GTA fans that are not going to transition over to Red Dead. There's so many different game modes within GTA 5 that are almost like their own little games that they're not going to be able to do effectively. Like, they'll probably have like horse races and things along that line, but like,
and a zombie mode. They
they
will
will definitely add a zombie mode. That's something that Red Dead Undead will definitely
Undead
Nightmare, yeah. So that'll definitely be a hallmark of it, but I don't think it'll necessarily kill the player. You're obviously going to have some transition over, but I don't think it's going to be as significant as we might think. Now, if they come up with a way to do things that are like almost, very, very reminiscent of GTA 5, that may be another story, but I just don't see how they could effectively implement it. That's going to be the same.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Devin on the fact that, just as like a final thought for me on this is, yeah, the Red Dead Redemption Online, like, that is, they're going to have to get a little bit more creative, I think, with some of the crazy wild stuff that they can throw in there to bring people in and make them want to spend the money and the time that they've spent in GTA 5. With it being set in a Western, environment, atmosphere, time period, you're going to be limited to what you can do. So I will be very curious, very optimistic to see what they can do. Obviously, it's Rockstar. Pretty much whatever they touch is gold. So I have no doubt that they will, create awesome content for that, for their online stuff. But I'm interested to see what it is.
Well, if I could throw another thought in real quick before we end this, I would like to point out how kind of the battle between Fortnite and PUBG went. You can't get the same things in each game, like Devin was saying, with how there are so many things in GTA 5 that you can't get in the Red Dead online. Well, there are a lot of aspects. I mean, Fortnite and PUBG are drastically different games, but their base formula is the same for what they do. And in the end, Fortnite did it better in the eyes of most gamers, and so that's where we get to Fortnite being the huge phenomenon that it is, and PUBG is now I don't want to say irrelevant, but kind of irrelevant in comparison, and so. I'm just saying, I think when you have two games with those similar formulas, it's going to come down to which one does it better. Okay, that's the one I'm going to sink all of my hours into.
Yep. Well, I'm sure we'll do I will cover it when it comes out, and everybody listening will hear our thoughts and opinions on it.
We'll do a podcast in 5 years and let you know if we're if we were right.
Yeah. 2022. Okay, GTA 6 is out, and
For me, I'll jump on here. I'll be like, well, guys, I really love playing Red Dead 9. I love all the young people.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure David doesn't expect to live that long, so.
Oh gosh. Well, with that being said, I think we'll wrap this up. Anything else anyone would like to add
Go to the
before we close this mug
website.
out?
Watch, read, consume
SickCritic.com.
our content. Yeah, I should probably tell them what the website is as I'm telling them to go there. That'd be a...
SickCritic.com, merch store, open now. Go buy.
Oh,
buy what?
brought to you by Verizon Wireless.
Can you hear me now?
That is old Verizon Wireless, but...
Yeah, with that being said, guys, I think we'll close this out. Like they said, as always, if you want to see some more of our content, we have a lot of talented people over here. Go to sickcritic.com. We'll have our Red Dead Redemption 2 review coming out fairly soon. Stay tuned for that. And with that, I'm Devin. This is Brandon, David, and Peter, and we're signing out.
Peace.
I love all the old people and young people.